That was the internship of it's a community. The internship of by Wins something like that.
Start. Good morning, Mr. Suji and friends. Today, me, Ivan, Jed, and Saif, we're going to do our persuasive speech on the topic of the moon landing conspiracy. It's going to be one of the hardest topics to persuade you guys because we're going to change the course of history. For what we're saying is that not a single man has ever stepped foot on the moon. And we're saying that the moon landing was 100% a hoax and that it was all staged by NASA. And our content was that what was the moon landing conspiracy all about? Facts and evidences supporting the theory of the conspiracy. The reasons why America will do such thing. Overall view and general opinions why many people might believe that the moon landing never actually happened. So what we're saying is that the Apollo 11 moon landing never actually happened. That astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were actors performing on a stage behind using real props and lighting sets, and behind in front of a filmmaker, well-known renowned filmmaker, Stanley Kubrick, filming every coordination of the astronauts if they actually landed on the moon. And that the landing was 100% a hoax, and it was all accomplished on the stage again. Furthermore, reasons such as NASA's reputation, keeping a good image of them being the best aerospace organization in the world, and the Vietnam War that's escalating, and also the space war, which is inside the Cold War between the Union Soviet and the American. So, to provoke my point, I'm going to talk about Stanley Kubrick's involvement. Stanley Kubrick, in my opinion, is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. He made, previously in the year of 1968, just before the moon landing in 1969, he made one of the most influential, if not the greatest sci-fi film ever made, called 2001, A Space Odyssey. And in the worst case that the moon landing never actually happened, it was like NASA secretly approached Stanley to direct the first 3 moon landing footage. But since then, Stanley Kubrick never admitted in any interviews or in any interviews that he actually filmed the moon landing, or he did not, until the movie in 1980 called The Shining, where he actually confessed that he might cover up the moon landing. And here it is. The Shining is also one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Probably the most influential, and one of his stories is that the boy here, played by Jack Lloyd, wears an Apollo 11 USA costume, trying to prove that, this is Stanley Kubrick's film by the way, trying to prove that there was a connection between Stanley Kubrick and the Apollo 11 moon landing. And one of the horror rooms of the Stephen King's original novel of the same name, The Shining, says that the original horror room was 217. But then Stanley Kubrick changed the room to 237, and there must be a reason. What the reason might be was because the distance from Earth to Moon at the time of 1968 was 237,000 kilometers. 237,000 miles. And right here you can see the tank container. Tank container are containers that are used to advertise astronauts' food before they actually go on the moon, And by the next picture you could see that in here, Jack Lloyd wear the same Apollo 11 USA shirt with a kind of a space shuttling pattern that try to show that he actually did the moon landing, but he could not credit it. It's one of his greatest achievements, but he could not credit it because it was NASA's all-planned approach. So, for the next point, I would like Ivan to explain.
Good morning, guys, and I'm going to show you a video to let you more clear about the theories.
Real big on the screen. Do not show to the public. Hit play from the top. And the first thing we hear is NASA saying that the TV picture looks great. According to NASA, these pictures were taken when Apollo 11 was more than 100,000 miles from Earth. At that distance, there is a long delay in communication because radio waves must cross the vast expanse between the capsule and mission control. There's exactly 4 seconds of dead air. Then we hear a third party that's not NASA and not Neil Armstrong say, talk. And then Neil Armstrong starts speaking. So apparently he had a secret earpiece in, and someone from the CIA or whoever was counting off on a stopwatch. So NASA asked the question, they counted off exactly 4 seconds, and then we heard, talk. And then he starts speaking. In other words, Brown believes NASA faked a 4-second radio delay to make it seem like Armstrong was halfway to the moon. It's an astonishing claim, but Brown and many like him say there is even more proof right there in the iconic images of the mission. I started looking at the pictures and I started questioning them because he's in shadow. Why is there so much light? The alleged scenes on the moon were in fact shot with electrical light rather than sunlight. That's what I noticed. Marcus Allen sees another problem in the beautiful images captured by the astronauts. The Hasselblad camera being used on the moon did not have a viewfinder because they took the mirror out. You have to focus it yourself. You have to set the aperture yourself, which is shut.
Right. So I'm going to tell you that moon traveling is impossible by theory. And NASA has admitted that traveling to the moon is not possible. And the original openings for the first humans landing on the moon 40 years ago were erased and taken over. NASA has admitted that. And one major theory suggests that a little radiation belt surrounding Earth would have made travel to the moon impossible. So, this is the Van Allen zone, which is also known as Van Allen belt. It's the David myth, which is known as the conspiracy theory circles as the main prevail. The main ex-thesis has now revealed that why he thinks that moon landing have been faked by the US government. The Van Allen zone, or Van Allen radiation belt, is covered like 500 to 58,000 kilometers around the Earth. So, the Van Allen zone would have been impenetrable to the Apollo 11 mission without using its 3 astronauts, which is Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin to the moon, and they are not sheltered to the Van Allen zone. So, Mr. David said, guess what? Without nuclear protection, a human being might have killed in the zone. So, I will proceed to Jeff.
Alright, we're talking about the reasons why moon landing is fake. Why? According to NASA, the moon atmosphere is so thin that the atoms and molecules almost never collide. Instead, they are free to follow the arching paths by the gravitational pull by the moon. So this proves that on the moon, there is no atmosphere at all. In this picture, you can see the flag is moving, but the astronaut did nothing to the flag, but the flag is still moving. To conclude, to say, according to Takio's earlier point, I believe that it was filmed on the south stage on Earth rather than on the moon. The second point I'll be talking about, the footprint shouldn't be that deep. As I mentioned earlier, on the moon, there's no water. So they replace This is a footprint on the moon. This is an experiment by the Mythbuster by the Discovery Channel. So they did it. This one is the with atmosphere, and this one is the sand without water, and this one is with water. So they did it in the atmosphere zone. Then the second picture is without atmosphere. They use the exact same space boot to print the footprint on the sand, but it's not as same as the photo shown. Not as same as the photo shown on the NASA picture. The third part I'll be talking about, the shadow should be facing in the same direction. This photo is taken by NASA that the space shuttle is facing east and the rock is facing southeast. So there is only the chances there are two light sources shining on the items. But in space, there is only one light source, which is the sun. So this is impossible. The first try for Mythbuster, they used one light source to do it, but they realized the shadow is facing in the same direction, but not as same as the NASA photo shown. The second try for Mythbuster, they used two light sources to shine on the items. They realized the shadow direction is same as the NASA. The fourth part I'll be talking about, we won't be able to see this clearly, this astronaut this clearly. As according to Mythbuster, the astronaut, the space shuttle blocked the light for the astronaut. But why does the astronaut look so clearly? Unless there is a light illuminate the astronaut. Instead, it should be look like this if the space shuttle is blocking the light. To conclude my point, I think, according to Mythbuster, it was only possible to film on Earth but not on the moon. Next, I will pass it to Sai.
Now I would like to tell that why NASA faked the moon landing. Like, what would be their motive behind the faking the moon landing? Some of the main reasons could be like the space war with Russia, the space race with Russia, the ongoing Cold War, the Vietnam War, and the cosmic radiation, which I will discuss later, the technology and the expenses which is needed to go to the moon, to land on moon. Now the first about the space race with Russia. The America were in a space race at that time, like in the 1950s to 1960s with the former Soviet Union, which is now known as the Russia. The landing in the 1960s, to land on moon was viewed as a national accomplishment and technological advances for that country. So going to moon at that time was very hard due to the Van Allen belt, which Ivan discussed. The Van Allen belt, which is the natural magnetic field of the Earth. And then while Russia was researching how to land on Earth, how to land on moon safely, by keeping all this in mind, at that very time, NASA just fooled everyone by showing a recorded video clip of the moon landing. The second point would be the Vietnam War. At that time, after the World War II, the US military got involved with the Vietnam War. The Americans had a lot of casualties with them. Many of the US citizens were killed there. Many of the kids got killed there. So the citizens of the US were very angry with the US government. So at that time, the U.S. government and NASA together planned to fake the moon landing to like divert the attention, to divert the public attraction from there to the moon landing and to make them happy. Now this is the cosmic radiation. Like this is our Earth, and this is the Van Allen belt, the natural magnetic field of the Earth, which I will discuss. And after that, this is the cosmic radiation. This is a very harmful radiation which is emitted from the sun. Like even if you cross the Van Allen belt somehow, like after that there is the cosmic radiation. Like if the astronauts get contaminated, like if the astronauts get hit by this ring, struck by this cosmic radiation, they will die. They will die within 1 or 2 days. It's so harmful. So it is almost impossible to travel to moon with the technology that NASA had at that time. So like all this explains that why so all this may conclude that NASA had just faked the moon landing rather than actually landing on it. Now I'll pass to Takio for some conclusions.
So what do you all think? Did the moon landing actually happen? Probably is a very subjective question because NASA didn't actually have the technology to land a man on the moon and bring him back, but they got the technology to fake it. And for that, I would like to say that, you know, I did my own research, I did my own kind of thing, did my own process thing. I did an Instagram story about did Apollo 11 actually landed on the moon. I created a poll, and about 43% agreed yes, and the other 57 agreed no, it was staged. So I'm trying to say that majority kind of believe that the moon landing never actually happened. And there's another theory that sparked this was because Apollo 11 stayed on the moon for 21 hours. And the entire footage that was filmed and was shown on Earth to 6 million people was only 3 hours. So there's approximately about 17 to 18 hours of unbroadcast footage shown to the people that is a total mystery. Did we actually land the moon? I mean, there's many reasons such as the escalating Vietnam War, sending your kids to the Vietnam War for what? Stopping communism, but instead they're dying there. And for that, they try to divert their attention to do the moon landing, to make people happy. And the space war, there was fighting against the Union Soviet. More than that, there was also the Van Allen belt that you cannot make it more than that. Instead, you will actually die. So it's a very subjective question. Yet again, did we land on the moon? I mean, it's your opinion. So that's it for our presentation. And thank you very much.